So this is the iPhone 16 Plus in the teal color option, and I've had it for about 3 weeks, and I want to give you my honest review on this phone now that I've had it for several weeks and help you decide, if you haven't made your decision yet, if this is going to be the one for you. So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology, and welcome to my review of the iPhone 16 Plus after 3 weeks. Now, I paid the full price for this. It was over $900, but under $1,000. Do I think it was worth the price and value for the price point? And the honest answer is probably not for the price that it cost. I do think that, it should be a little bit less until they put promotion. If this had promotion, I would absolutely think it's exactly worth the price. But I think, and I've been thinking this since the Plus originally launched, that these phones, as long as they have 60 hertz, should be about $100 less. So I'm not changing my stance on that. But overall, I still quite like the phone, and I'm going to tell you some reasons why. Let's begin with the first one after 3 weeks. The lightness of this phone. It feels so much better and more comfortable to hold than the 16 Pro Max. At 199 grams, this thing feels and been feeling like a featherweight. It literally feels like the difference between holding maybe like even the iPad landscape, a heavier iPad and an iPad mini. The thing just feels lighter. It also is much lighter than even the iPhone 15 Pro Max, while retaining almost the exact same bezels, a little bit thicker, but a faster chipset than the 15 Pro Max. And I've been thinking this kind of just feels like a 15 Pro Max Lite, but it's called the iPhone 16 Plus. I also like some other things about this phone. Like, I like the camera design. I've been really enjoying the way it looks. And the overall phone technically just kind of feels similar to a Pro model. Just has the aluminum build, but it kind of feels similar and looks similar. So definitely it's a really, really nice product. Although it's not selling quite as well as the Pro or as popular, I still find it to be a quite nice product. Although they really, really need to put promotion on the iPhone 17 Air, or if they call it the 17 Plus again, or they bring this model, whatever they do for this model replacement, they need to put promotion at this point already. It's just getting really, really old to keep seeing these 60 hertz panels. Okay, when it comes to the display 3 weeks later, I kind of have the same feeling about this that I have about pretty much all the other iPhone displays in terms of video quality. The dynamic island is noticeable, but it's a really nice, well-tuned flat panel, so no curve action. And overall, it just tends to look pretty good. It's not overly saturated, not undersaturated. The bezels are noticeably thicker, though, than what you're going to find on the Pro Max, and even the 15 Pro Max, just a little bit thicker than those. It's almost like Apple's competing with themselves here, like to get you to buy the next version or the higher end model because that one has thinner bezels. But I still think whoever's buying this Plus is really going to enjoy the screen, because it's still a very large option if you don't want to go all out for the Max model. It also gets pretty darn bright at 1,000 nits typical and 2,000 outdoors. So while you do have 60 hertz, you still get the same brightness as the Pro Max, and indoor and outdoor. So that's really nice. Also, you have the same true tone. You have the night shift and dark mode. And generally, it's a really good width as well. 19:9 aspect ratio, 460 pixels per inch, which essentially means that it's pretty sharp text. However, I do have to say that I do notice a difference between the text on here and something like a Pixel 9 Pro XL with over 500 ppi on that phone. I know that's not what we're reviewing here, but I'm just saying, as a reviewer who covers other phones, I do notice that the 460 is not as sharp as competing Android phones with over 500 pixels per inch. And I say that because I want to see maybe an upgrade to the resolution, maybe get just slightly higher resolution. I feel like it's just like the same thing every year. It's been like this kind of resolution way back since like 11 Pro Max days. Not that there's maybe a major need to upgrade it, but it would be nice to see more pixels just for a display upgrade. But we haven't seen that yet. Ceramic shield glass is on here as well, and it is a matte texture glass in the rear. Doesn't pick up a lot of fingerprints either. But yeah, at the end of the day, there's still no split screen. There's still no landscape on this large phone. So it doesn't take great advantage of the display, but at least the display itself is rich, colorful, but it's really just lacking the promotion. However, I will say you don't really notice it if you're not comparing it side by side. After a few days, you kind of get over it, but that's not an excuse, bro. I'm just telling you, that's the facts. It's not an excuse that like people think the reviewers or YouTube content creators are making excuses for Apple. No, I'm just saying it's true. You really don't really think about it when you're not comparing it side by side. After a few days, your brain just adjusts. But am I saying they shouldn't upgrade it? No, they should still go to promotion on the next model. All right, now let's talk about if you should buy this when it comes to the software. Well, the answer is absolutely, because you are going to have Apple Intelligence. You probably are going to have this by the time you're watching this review even. It's coming out next week as of the recording of this video. You have the customizable icons now, the ability to put applications wherever you like on the home screen, better widgets than ever before, and iOS 18 has a lot more changes as well, which we covered in my iOS 18 review. However, having the 8 gigs of RAM, the intelligence support, this thing right here is definitely set up more for the future than even last year's 15 Plus. So if you wanted a large iPhone under the $1,000 price tag, this is essentially the best option right now. So if you skipped out the 15 Plus and you want to be future-proofed for quite some time, this one is probably the better way to go. Although 12 gig of RAM iPhones will probably be the new standard in a few years, this is still going to hold you over for quite some time when it comes to the software. And the updates are really good as well. They come in very regularly and even better than some competing smartphone options. When it comes to performance, it's actually very, very strong on here. The A18, this is one of the best chip years, actually the best chip year since the iPhone 13 on the base models. I mean, the scores we're getting on here are ridiculous. They're like pro level scores on here. I'm not sure that brightness was so high, but you'll see right here, CPU history, I'm getting insanely high scores here on Geekbench, as well as very good scores on my 3D Mark scores as well. So let's go ahead and see where those are. Let's go over here to 3D Mark, go to my results, and you'll see 4,000 benchmarking and a 24.2 FPS. I mean, come on, that is pretty impressive for just the Plus model. So I don't feel like you're even hardly at all behind on performance this year for the Plus. It even is better performance than the A17 Pro chip from the 15 Pro Max. So this is a sweet phone when it comes to performance, one of the fastest in the world. So a few weeks later, when it comes to the camera, I gotta say, what I've been feeling about this is that this is not my favorite phone for zoom. I know it does have the cropping ability, but after 2x, things get a little bit digital there, and I like that they go 10. It's an upgrade over the 5 before. It's enough for the casual user, but I'm more into the like long zooms on a phone. So for me, it's not my favorite, but that's not a knock against the phone. I think for the typical buyer of this phone, it's plenty enough on the camera. And the ultra wide camera is also quite good. Although this one doesn't get the 48 megapixel, it still has the 12 megapixel ultra wide. At least the main sensor is the 48. Also, we're not able to go to those different, widths like 25, 30, like the different millimeters on here. So it doesn't have that pro feature. In addition, we do have 4K 60, but no Pro Raw Res support. But the video itself is still pro level. I think when you're using like LumaFusion to edit, you're using like Final Cut. I mean, you have a lot of stuff, even on the Plus, that can get the job done. This is essentially like the MacBook Air of iPhones. It's the cheaper option that still does the job. That's how I look at it. And that's how the camera comes off to me on this phone. Nothing overly special, but still very strong lenses, very strong performance, and really crushing a lot of other cameras on the market as well. If we take a look at the front, it also has that same 12 megapixel. I really wish they would upgrade the size of the megapixels on this one. It's been the same for such a long time. I like to see them increase the resolution on the front-facing camera, although that will probably begin on the Pro options. At the end of the day, 3 weeks later, I'm loving this camera as a casual use camera, although I cannot say it's my favorite due to it lacking zoom. It just doesn't go super far, and there are other phones that are much cheaper than this that can zoom much further than this. So that's my only con, but other than that, its video is impressive. Its main photography is impressive. It's still almost like as good as a Pro with just a few sacrifices, which I think most people are going to be just fine with making. So when it comes to the battery, this phone will last a full day and then some. It's bigger than the battery in the 16. It doesn't have 120 hertz, but it also has an OLED display. So if you keep it in the dark mode, you reduce the white point, you could even last longer. It's not quite as good as the iPhone 16 Pro Max in my experience, but this thing definitely works well. So I would say pick this one up if you want the second longest iPhone battery life in the current lineup. That's going to be this phone right here. And if you want one that lasts very long, you don't like those smaller phones because they got weaker batteries, this is going to be a really good option for you right here. Although there are phones that compete that have larger batteries in this, iOS is very efficient. It doesn't really have to work too hard in the background. Efficient A-series CPUs, this thing is going to be a really good battery experience, and you could always turn on low power mode as well to go ahead and avoid draining more battery on the day-to-day. So from the audio perspective, we are seeing very good audio on here from the speakers, bottom and top. At the end of the day, the audio is not super loud, but it's pretty loud for a phone. It's going to get the job done. Also, this has improved modem, so the actual signal strength has been better on this product. In addition to that, we do have a little bit better Wi-Fi performance as well. So this is going to be good for connectivity and things of that sort. Haven't had too many issues in that department. So I would recommend this as a really decent phone option. As an actual phone, that's going to be great. USB-C 2.0 though, so transfer speeds aren't great. Again, I wouldn't want to use this as a pro level phone for transferring all kinds of video files. It's going to be the slower option, but most people won't care. And of course, emergency SOS has been good and Face ID is fine. I don't really have much more else to say about this phone. We covered battery, we covered the build. The design, I think, looks fresh because of the new camera layout. We didn't talk much about the camera control, which I'll give you my little take on that right here. I don't even think about it much. Why do you think it took me so long to talk about it in this part of the video? It took me forever to even mention this because I've been finding myself still using the software keys because this is finicky. It just doesn't feel super fast. About the best use I've been finding for it is just to hold it down when I'm trying to get a quick moment and take a video. Now that is pretty useful. Don't get it twisted. That is pretty useful. But I personally like the action button more, and I wish the camera control button was programmable as well, so I can customize this button and that one. And also having the action button now on the base 16 and 16 Plus does make this a little bit nicer than the 15 and 15 Plus, which had the classic silent switch, and you could still leave this as a silent switch if you would like. Although you can always just silence from right here within Control Center, so it's not a really big issue. So wrapping it up, the iPhone 16 Plus, it's a nice upgrade over the 14 Plus, as well as if you had an older iPhone Max that never got the 120 Hertz, like you have a 12 Pro Max, you had 11 Pro Max, and you just don't want to pay for the 16 Pro Max, it could be a good option from one of those as well. It really does have a lot of great features, and I would say it's almost like 90% of what the 16 Pro Max is, but I think those cons and those things that it cuts make it not that desirable, and we're seeing reports that it's not seeing as much demand as initially expected, and I'm not surprised by that because they didn't put a 120 Hertz display on here. I do think ProMotion would change it, the sales for this one immediately. A lot of people would go for this for sure. But we'll see if this gets thinner in the form of an iPhone 17 Air. According to rumors, next year this might get cut, the Plus model, and it hasn't seemed to be the most popular model that I've been noticing amongst tech enthusiasts like me and you. But at the same time, I will say though that this is still a really good option. On a scale of 1 to 10, if I'm giving the 11 Pro Max, did I say the 11 Pro Max? The 16 Pro Max, a 9 out of 10. I'm going to give the iPhone 16 Plus about an 8.5, an 8 out of 10. I had to take away a half point or so for the ProMotion, and the zoom I'll take a point away for. So it's like an 8 out of 10. It's a really great phone, but it's just not overly exciting. It's just a reliable workhorse. It'll get the job done, but it's not going to blow you away. Although it might blow you away if you're coming from something a lot older. So it really comes down to perspective. Thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know if the 16 Plus is on your radar, if after this video you're picking it up or you're going to go with another option. I'd love to hear what you got to say down below. I'll catch you on the next episode. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.